Yeah, welcome back, everybody. And for those of you that are grabbing this for the first time, you missed a day. I'm Ron Neitzel, author of the Green Wizard's Guide. We are doing a series, and where I left off, so you need to go back and watch the other video, linked below. Where I left off is putting your grass seed in, grass seed of your choice, and roughing up the soil a little bit. You know, I realized I left more questions than I gave answers when we talked yesterday. And it's been kind of bothering me. I know I didn't want to overload you with details, but I can just see people standing back going, wait a minute, how much water? Wait a minute, what if it's on a downhill slope? Wait a minute, you didn't give us a time of year to start this. Wait a minute. And there's all these what ifs, and it all just kind of, it kind of hit me after we talked yesterday. And I kind of want to set the record straight. I kind of want to. A lot of this stuff is important, but a lot of this stuff isn't important. What's important is getting the soil amended and bringing the seed in from the grass seed that you want, from the source that you want, and making sure that we're watering in with just enough sugar that we're getting that microbial life to go active as it can possibly go. Now, yeah, I did say cover it. Now, a lot of old timers will tell you, if you're going to put down seed, you need to cover all of that to keep the birds off. Well, that kind of indicates to the birds that there's a lot of seed there, because even some of the cover that you could potentially purchase is going to have seed in it. Now, one of the tricks I found early in the spring, I mean super early, even right after the very first frost, is you can put plastic down and create a small greenhouse in this patch of dead soil where you want to get grass growing. It's harder to water under there, and you want to concentrate the heat. You want this thing breathing and doing its thing, but you want to concentrate the moisture more so than any other item involved here is the moisture. You don't want the soil to dry out in any way, shape, or form, ever. Your garden, your flower beds, your yard, doesn't matter. One of the really neat things about the microbial world we're talking about is that they secrete a film in your soils, in your raised bed gardens, alongside cement, porous cement that's got little microscopic holes in it. And I can go into cement and different types, and regardless, microscopic life will store water in soil, in aerated soil, and it'll store a lot of water. I have literally watched my yard drink fog. You can stand at the end of the street and look up at my yard and see it, and it looks like a vacuum sweeper, and the fog is just dissipating into my yard. It's incredible to watch, and I don't have runoff. Well, that's because of how deep the aeration goes, but that's a whole different scenario that we're going to build in your yard. If you're going to do something to cover your yard, now understand, we've cut this grass as short as we dare, and we have found ruts roots, swales. We've found all sorts of things, and we're going to deal with each and every one of those individually. No, we're not going to do a yard leveling. None of that is required. None of that is needed. Well, it's just not needed. It really isn't. Your yard has natural runoff points, and these areas are going to be water storage areas. They're not going to be puddles. They're not going to be drain off for your yard. It's just, call it topography of your yard, which is going to change. But these are the areas we need to be paying attention to. You're going to see them that first cut. If you're going to cover that area and you're going to follow, let's say, the old timers way, and you want to put something down, you want alfalfa. You want alfalfa hay. I know you're sitting back going, why are you being so specific? Well, alfalfa is nature's gift to us, whether it be horses, rabbits, including plants. Alfalfa is like a miracle steroid for all of us. We can consume it, and it's a form of a steroid. It's a natural steroid, though. Horses consume it. Rabbits consume lots of things. We're going to use alfalfa a lot for a lot of different reasons. So getting the alfalfa straw and putting that down over that bare area that we just roughed up and put seed in, yes, you can do that. It's going to attract birds. They're going to see it, and they're going to be looking for seed. But that's nowhere near as important as keeping the soil damp. Not wet, not flooded, damp. So you want something covering that soil. Now, yes, you could walk into the trees or walk into the woods and grab a bunch of leaves and grind them up a little bit and what have you, and it would be a mineral release. It would be something that would be good in that area. We don't necessarily want composting to be taking place just yet. Composting is going to call in worms when it releases that hint of ammonia. We don't want that just yet. We want those seeds to have the best possible chance for the next 14 to 20 days. I know, some seed goes faster than that. That's why so many contractors that are building houses instantly throw down rye because it's a fast grower, instantaneous. This stuff will grow anywhere lightning fast. That's not necessarily what we want. Like I said, I'm a fan of the Kentucky bluegrass, and it is just so hardy. Best word for it, hardy. It takes a beating and just keeps coming. Now, one of the things, if you already know your yard and you know that this is a wet spot in your yard, when you go to put your seed in, I'm going to recommend that you go into your medicine cabinet and you find an unscented bag of Epsom salt. This is a mineral or a combination of minerals. It is not a sodium-based salt. Okay? It's not an iodine-based salt. It's not something that you would use for water filtration. It's not something that you would use to melt ice. No. This is something totally different. It works in so many ways. You can green up a yard with Epsom salt, but it also has this really unique way of melting clay. I know you're sitting back going, wait a minute. Well, that's why water is standing or running in that area. There's some clay there. You probably found it when you scratched up the soil a bit. There's some clay in there. This is not a bad thing. Clay is just topsoil squeezed like a sponge between gravity and industrialization and da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and you can go on with the list. That's what clay is. Clay is full of minerals, and we just need to soften it up and let those roots get in there. Now, you can talk to your girlfriends and your wives and what have you. You can even talk to medical doctors, and they'll tell you one of the things you can use to detox and to soften your skin is an Epsom salt bath. Soak your feet in it. I mean, hard industrial guy, calloused and this and that. It does wonders. Well, it kind of works the same way in a clay bed. You can soften up clay with Epsom salt. Now, I know there's a lot of gardeners out there that are gonna sit back and go, I heard. Yeah, well, the I heards were true. Granny knew what she was doing when them tomatoes started to yellow a little bit, or them tomato plants started to yellow a little bit. She threw Epsom salt in the garden. Epsom salt. Yeah. And I don't know. You're going to say, hey, wait, I want a measurement. Well, all right. I would generally say if you're going to use a cup of seed, then you want to use 1/3 of a cup of salt. That's it. It's like a dash for a dash, or a dash for a handful. Okay? It depends. It really does. Now, when I said go get seed, I meant like go get a 50-pound bag of seed. We're going to spend most of the season bringing all of your yard up. And you're going to find something very interesting when you're at the feed store. You can get Epsom salt, not in some fancy labeled bag. You can get bulk forms of Epsom salt from the feed store at the cost, if not just a hair more and a whole lot more, triple the quantity for the same price as you would at the drugstore for a fanciful bag of this stuff. Shop around. I realize the women have got this mastered, and boy, they can shop. They'll walk into a mall and they'll find every bin, everything on sale, everything. They'll go from one store to the next store to the next store, comparing exactly the same thing and get the best price on whatever dress, purse, shoes. I get it. Well, guys and gals, I'm not excluding. I've seen some women running some gardens that just blow my mind. Let them shop. Let them find this stuff. They're going to help us more than you know. But get that Epsom salt. Get that bag of seed. We're going to need some other things too. There's a whole list. You get your hands on the Green Wizard's Guide. It's all listed out in there. It's about a 2-hour read. But I figured with this information that I'm going to try and cover in this series, we're talking about bringing your yard back. We're talking about amping things up in your yard and going from scratch up to that beautiful yard as quickly as possible. Now, if we're watering correctly and we're using that molasses, deer grade molasses, don't use cooking molasses. It's processed. You don't want that. Can't find it, get some cheap cola. I don't care where. Get a 2-liter, whatever. Open that thing up, shake that thing up, pour it out in a bucket, do whatever you got to do. You want that thing dead flat. You want no carbonation in it whatsoever. If you can run an aerator in it, and that's getting a little technical, but something like from a fish tank or something, and if you want to, and you're going to do some compost teas and stuff down the road as your plan, having a good aerator around wouldn't be a bad idea. But pump that thing up. Get that cola as flat and dead as possible. Now understand, yes, if you look at the recipe on the bottle of all of the different things that are in that cola, you really, really, really don't want to be putting that down in your yard. You're dumping chemicals and dyes out there. But for lack of finding a source for deer grade molasses, if honey would work just as well if you can find unpasteurized honey. But you're going to bring bees in. So apples for apples, oranges for oranges. What do you want to be doing here? You want to get a form of sugar, a natural, untouched form of sugar in a liquid form down in that soil, and start feeding that microbial life, so that when the roots start asking for minerals, remember the Epsom salt? Yeah, that could be one of them. When the roots start asking for minerals, the microbial life is already there and attached and ready to go bring back whatever it's asked for. That's the way it works. It's incredible. These microbes can reach over a mile. I keep telling people, when you treat your garden, treat your yard the same way. And some people that have gotten the book go, wait a minute, this has got nothing to do with gardening. Yes, it does. If you read the very last bit of the book, it's the recipe for every garden. A day one from scratch garden. People are misunderstanding that microbial life that is outside their garden can also be going and bringing back minerals that the garden plants are asking for, that the flower beds are asking for. You can add supplements. It's like taking vitamin C to shake a cold or something, right? Because we don't produce vitamin C naturally. So intaking vitamin C is a good thing. We don't want to be disturbing our garden beds. We don't want to be messing around with those worms that are in there and opening the soil up and allowing sunlight to get to it. We only want to open it when we're either harvesting stuff that grows underground or we are putting in new plants. I don't even pull the old dead roots out. Those old dead roots sitting in there go dormant with the microbial life going dormant right on top of it. That stuff breaks down, brings in worms, does its thing, composts, leaves aeration tracks. When I put the plant back in, it's got the right microbial life for my area, for my soil conditions. And when they come back in and they go back to work, they're already waiting for the instructions. They're the right ones for that specific plant. I don't rotate plants. Don't need to. That's kind of, I'm drifting too far and my mindset's going too far and I kind of want to stop there, but you got to understand, if the microbial life can reach out over a mile to bring something back that the plant is asking for, 2 feet away from your garden, you can be adding minerals to your soil, to your grass, and it makes it readily available and easier to reach for your garden without disturbing the garden. The yard is just as important, if not more important, because you can disturb the yard without disturbing the garden. A lot of people go, well, I'll just do a raised bed and I'll lift all that soil up. Well, one of the things that these people are doing are putting a bottom on that thing. Now it's no longer in contact with the soil and it can't act the same. The worms can't get to the soil in the bin. It's in the air. They put a bottom on it. There's whatever. I don't want to go there. Okay. We're talking about your yard, your seed, your grass. What to cover that spot in. You want to start looking at the watering for this area for the next 14 days. Now, obviously, if they're calling for rain, you don't want too much rain getting in there either. It'll wash the seed out. But at the same time, it could help you out. Next question is going to be, well, when can I cut that? Well, when you can walk up to that grass and you can stick your fingers down through that grass and close your hand ever so lightly, ever so gently, and you can tug and the grass doesn't come out of the ground. The roots are finally deep enough to think about cutting that grass. It may reach 2, 3, 4 inches before it finally starts to stabilize like that. It all depends on your soil conditions and how active the microbial life is. You got to understand, the roots from your grass seed are going to follow the line that the microbial life has already bored through the soils. That's where the worms are coming the opposite direction because they're following the microbial life. It's a trade. It's an exchange. It's part of the food web. This is how this all works. Yeah, we want the worms, but we don't want them too early. Yeah, we want the microbial life, but we don't want it going into compost. That releases the ammonia. And see, there's all sorts of things that can go on here. That's your judgment call for the area that you're working on to put in new grass seed. So as I said, you want to be about 1 inch down. You want to add some Epsom salt to that mix. We're going to add a lot of Epsom salt throughout the season and in the next season because it'll green up. It'll help conditions. It will amp up the yard, the whole yard, without a whole lot of anything. So if you start to think about the amount of Epsom salt we're talking about over time, and then you go and you make the price comparison, you're going to see this one little trick of going to the food or going to the feed store is going to save you money in the long run. And that's what this is all about. Get back to nature. Get back to using what's in your house, what's in your cupboard, and let's start saving you money. Nature's way works. The Green Wizard's system just takes the shortcuts. Nature's own shortcuts and amps things up. So we want to really think about, what is the water measurement for an entire yard? Well, I would tell you, go get yourself, I don't know, a little can of tuna, rinse it out really good. You don't want to draw in cats, or some cat food can, something along those lines. Rip the label off because you don't want that paper all over the place. It's got print on it, and just put that can out there near this area, and as you're watering, get it in that can too. And when you've got a 1/4 inch, just a 1/4 inch of sweetened water in there, you're done watering that area. And you can judge your whole yard that way. If you want to water your whole yard, I keep trying to balance the system when I'm talking to people, and it's like they ask me, do I need to install a sprinkler system in my yard? Well, for starters, it would be great because you get every zone possible. But in the long run, if you follow the guide, you'll never need to water again. So you might be throwing money away. We don't want to do that. We want to save you money. We want to get you the greenest yard, the best yard possible to support everything you've got going on. Understand, and I'll wrap it up here very quickly. Understand, weeds don't necessarily produce oxygen. Grass does. The thicker our grass, the less weeds can penetrate into the yard. The less other forms of grass can come into the yard. So the healthier your soil, the less you have to water, the less you have to weed, the less you have to worry about invasive species of grass coming into your yard. To me, that sounds like a win-win all the way around. And when your yard is drinking the moisture in the air, and this can happen anywhere, when your yard is drinking in the moisture because the microbial life is so active, it is drawing it in. You don't need to turn a sprinkler on. You might want to, but you don't need to. The water's stored in your soils. So feed that microbial life. Let's get that area covered, and let's start thinking about when's the time. I would normally skip that area at least once, maybe even twice, as the new grass seed is growing in. I've had some really horrendous conditions in all the years I've been dealing with this yard, and I've made so many mistakes. You're going to learn from them. And I'm hoping that you listening to these and reading the guide, you're going to see the mistakes I made and you're going to avoid them. And it's going to save you money too. So I appreciate you. Look for the next episode. Again, if you missed the first one, step on back and let's start growing you a brand new yard. You'll have a great day. I appreciate you stopping in.